Now is the time to figure out your attachment style. Hello, I'm Emilia Tsaneva, psychotherapist, and today we'll talk about how can you figure out what your attachment style is. In our last video, we talked about what are the four attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. So if you haven't watched it, you can go back and watch it to have an idea what I'm talking about. And today we'll focus on how to figure out what your attachment style is. The goal of knowing what your attachment style is to improve your relationships and know yourself better. Because often there are these automatic responses that happen in relationships where our emotional part of the brain takes over and we are sometimes even shocked of ourselves. Why did I react like this? What am I doing? What happened? And this is why it's very important to know what your attachment style is and how does it work, so that you can support yourself better and you're not so shocked of yourself and your reactions, and have more understanding what's going on. Please do not use your attachment style to criticize yourself or say, oh, I'm a lost case, because all attachment styles have their strengths and things that they need to learn and things that can help them support themselves. So please don't be hard on yourself. It's important to know as an information so that you know what's going on and what you can work on. It's not like sentence for life, that's it, I'm always going to be like that. No, the attachment style is meant to change. It's adaptable. This is why it's important to know where you start from, so that you can develop, so that you can support yourself, and so that you can learn some more secure uh, behaviors, ways of relating, and also how to be more secure also with yourself, to be a good, secure person to yourself as well. The first area where you can distinguish which attachment style you have are emotions. A person with a secure attachment style is in touch with their emotions. So they can feel that they're sad or upset or angry or they're scared of something. They don't try to suppress the feeling, but they don't drown in it. They have space for this emotion. They can regulate it themselves. They can ask for support if they need it. And generally, they have a very balanced attitude towards their own emotions and also towards the emotions of others. They're empathetic. They don't have any problem being there for someone when they have the capacity for it, of course, without going over their boundaries to be there for someone else. They also understand that emotions are a normal part of human beings. They don't try to suppress them, and they just make space for them. With anxious attachment style, they often feel like they're drowning in their emotions. It's so intense that they don't know what to do with them. That's why they usually try to reach out to someone else. So they feel like they need another person, especially if they're in love with someone, if they're focused on someone. They need to hear from this person, get a text, or be with them in order to calm down. They don't know what to do with their emotions otherwise. They are in touch with them, so they can even distinguish. Okay, I'm angry, or I'm sad, or I'm scared. I feel overwhelmed. They can name what's going on, although for some, being angry it's not allowed, because this can make people maybe move away from them or reject them in some way. So for some, anger might not be a distinguishable emotion, but sadness for most, or being upset, being overwhelmed, being scared, they can name it, but it's so intense that they don't know what to do with it. So they constantly reach out for someone. They need the presence of someone else in order to be able to calm down. It's extremely difficult for them to do it on their own. Then we have the avoidance, who try everything not to feel. So usually they are quite disconnected of their own emotions. They feel some sensations, maybe something is uncomfortable. The usual reaction is to find a way to shut it down. They're very prone to addictions, to substances, to excessive exercise. They usually try to get something from outside to shut down the emotions. It's very difficult for them to sit with the emotion. Many of them also have the experience of um, other people's emotions overwhelming them. So many of them were drowning in the emotions of one of their parents. Um, so they feel really threatened when someone else is having an emotional crisis at the moment, and they have no idea how to handle it. It's too much for them. Then we have the disorganized attachment style. Here it differs. Usually they're in touch with their emotions, they can name them, but it's too intense, so they're also drowning in their emotions. But there are some situations where they just shut down and they don't feel anything. Often it happens with big, heavy events. When something really bad happens, often people with disorganized attachments are the one that don't feel anything, and they've been through a breakup, or they've lost a close person, and it can happen that they don't feel anything. They know there should be some emotion, but they're just like, nah, I'm fine, I'm moving on with my life. What happened happened, I'm good. And at the same time, it can be that they go through a breakup, and they drown in the sadness. So it's very, very different. They never know what to expect of themselves. So they have quite different attitude towards their own emotions, and quite different reactions. And sometimes with some training, let's say when they worked on themselves, and also depending on what environment they're in, they can also make some space for their emotions when they have support and the environment is stable and secure. The next area where we can distinguish between the four attachment styles is asking for support. People with secure attachment style, they know how to support themselves, so they try to encourage themselves, they try to learn to develop, they try to solve the problem by themselves. However, when they see, this is a bit too big for me, I need some help, they don't have a problem reaching out, asking for help, and they have a very balanced attitude. So it's not like they demand the other person to help them. It's also not like, oh, I'm not allowed to help, I don't want to disturb you. They just ask in a calm, friendly manner, and they're okay. If the person says yes, great. If the person says no, okay. No one is obliged to help them, but they will just keep asking until they find someone who can support them, who can help them. And for them, that's the most natural thing, to support each other. They don't have a problem helping out their friends as well, or their close ones. Of course, they won't bend over backwards to help someone when they don't have the capacity and they're in a lot of trouble themselves, let's say. They do check with their boundaries first and how they feel, but generally they are open to supporting others as well, and that's the most natural thing for them. This is what we usually call interdependence. So I can depend on myself, you depend on yourself, and we can help each other as well. The anxious attachment style, they usually afraid to ask for support. So they tend to feel like they're too much. At the same time, they feel like they cannot handle it by themselves and they really need support, but it's really difficult to ask directly. And often they tend to go in the role of a small helpless child, so they don't ask in a confident way. They're always, oh, I'm really sorry, I don't want to bother you, but could you maybe just do this thing for me? Or often they would just sit silently and hope that the other person will figure out what they need and we will do it for them, and they can get really upset if the other person doesn't figure it out without them telling it. On one hand, they do realize they need support. On the other hand, they doubt their own abilities to solve their own problems, so it's more like they hope someone will come and save them. They don't try to save themselves, so to say, and at the same time they're constantly fixated on other people and what they can do for them. So often they jump in and solve problems for others and do favors for others even without the other person asking them, which can be very intrusive for the other person. And sometimes the anxious person, instead of gratitude for all the efforts they've done, um, they get some frustration from the other person and they wonder what happened, but the other person never asked for their help. So it's not easy for the anxiously attached person to deal with getting help, asking for help, and giving uh, support in a balanced way. So the person with avoidant attachment style, they hate asking for help and support. They usually believe that they need to figure it out themselves. They're not used to relying on others. Mm, they go in the direction of rigid independence. So even if they really do need help, they try to figure it out themselves. So, and I always think of this funny picture of someone trying to move a sofa. Obviously, it's a big sofa, you need two people for it, but they just take a chair with wheels and push it with the chair so that they don't need to ask for help. So they try to be extremely independent. They don't want to depend on anyone. And also they get really irritable when someone, especially when the someone demands for them to take care of them. This is very triggering for them. Mm. If someone names directly what they need and it's something small, okay, they can help. It can even give them pleasure sometime to be of use. But especially if someone demands to be helped and someone wants from them something big and really time and effort consuming, they can get really irritated. And even when they're in relationship with someone, they tend to see it like, I need to take care of myself, you take care of yourself, and we just do things together, but I'm not obliged to do anything for you. Why do you demand something from me? Well, what do you want from me? So they don't understand the concept of interdependence. For them, each of the partners needs to be completely independent, and that's the best relationship. When it comes to the disorganized attachment style, here we can see patterns from both anxious and avoidant. Um, they don't think they're allowed to ask directly for what they need. At the same time, they might feel overwhelmed and that someone needs to come and save them because they can't. And they can tend to demand people to come and help them, or ask very insecurely, could you maybe please try and help me if this doesn't bother you, if you have time, and they feel really bad asking for it. At the same time, they can be focused overly on other people and try to help them without anyone asking them for it, and expecting a gratitude, but doesn't always happen. So they can also get a frustrated reaction with like, why are you doing this? I never asked you. I don't want you to intrude my space or do things that I haven't asked you for. But at the same time, they can be totally independent, solve their own problems, be a real warrior, do everything by themselves, and not want to be bothered with other people's expectations, needs, wants. And this can switch from relationship to relationship, from friend to friend, or even with the same person within different periods of the relationship. So you don't have one fixed way of reaction when it comes to support and asking for help or giving support to someone. It's very different. But area where you can determine which attachment style you have is what's your attitude towards relationships in general. The securely attached person, they see relationships usually as something natural, as something that belongs in their life, that will happen in a natural way. They don't need to force it. They're usually not afraid, oh, am I going to find the right partner for me? They don't overly focus on relationships, but they also give relationships enough space in their life. Usually you don't see a huge difference between a person who is securely attached when they're in relationship and when they're not in relationship. What I mean by this is they keep putting effort into their career, they keep enjoying their hobbies, they keep taking care of themselves, they keep seeing their friends, and they also make enough space for the relationship and their partner. And of course, they see that their partner feels well as well, not like, okay, I'm going out, I don't care what you need right now. It's okay, I do have some plans, but we can do what you wanted tomorrow, or I'll plan something for us tomorrow. So they're very thoughtful, and also very, very balanced, very stable in a way. Of course, they're human as well. Sometimes they can focus more on career or a bit more on the relationship. At certain times, that's normal, but they don't go to extremes. So they tend to take care of all the important areas of their lives, no matter if they're in a relationship or they're without a relationship right now. Also, they're not afraid that they will die alone. So they know that even if this relationship doesn't work, of course it's sad, of course they need time to process and to heal, but there is always another person that maybe it will work with them. They're also quite realistic when it comes to choosing a partner. They usually know what they want. They don't have a huge list of criteria, they have a realistic list of criteria. They know what's important for them. They have a look in the person in front of them. Okay, does he or she meet this criteria? Yes, no? Yes, okay, that's good. They don't need to keep going on dates and keep seeing what other options are there. They found what they need, and that's it. They focus on this person, and they try to make the relationship work without putting too much pressure on it. It's not life or death situation, but it's nice to build something together. When it comes to the anxiously attached person, the attitude towards relationships is this is the meaning of life. They feel that this is the most important thing, having a relationship. Their self-esteem suffers tremendously if they are not in a relationship. They feel like they're not good enough. That something's wrong with them if they're not in a relationship. And usually they are overly focused on the other person. So you see a huge difference when they're single and when they're in a relationship. The moment they're in a relationship, they don't see their friends. They abandon their hobbies, they abandon self-care, they abandon their career. I mean, they still go to work, but they think about their partner or their object of interest the whole time. They're not so focused usually. They're hyper focused on the object of their interest or their partner or the relationship, and they feel like they will die without a relationship. And in case something happens and the relationship doesn't work out, they feel like they cannot uh, go over the breakup. It's uh, it's life or death situation. They feel like they will never find a partner for themselves, that something's wrong with them, and they will die alone. As for the avoidant attachment style, the attitude towards relationships is, well, it's nice to have one. I feel lonely without a relationship, but other areas of life tend to feel more important. They tend to neglect their relationship uh, and focus more on career, on friends, on hobbies, on self care. Sometimes it feels like everything else is more important than actually building the relationship and actually creating intimacy. It's too much, it's too overwhelming, so they tend to focus outside on the relationship. Also, they're really picky with their partners. Sometimes they have this huge list of criteria what they want in a partner, which is unrealistic. They tend to often find fault in people, not because they're perfect, but because finding fault helps them keep their distance and maybe not go into a relationship. And what is typical for them is the way of thinking that if only I find the perfect partner for me, everything will be great. My relationship didn't work so far because I didn't find the right partner. And right, it's more towards perfect. It's imagination, someone who doesn't have so many needs, who doesn't have so many emotions, takes care of themselves, and they just spend time together from times to times. Often, when the avoidants are in a relationship, they tend to think that it will be better to get out of this relationship. I cannot breathe. It's too much. It's not the right person for me. And they think once I'm out of the relationship, everything will be fine. But then they realize they're lonely, so they start looking again. Often they tend to choose for object of interest people who are unavailable, who are in another relationship already or live somewhere abroad, and then idealize them and imagine what it would be like to be with them. Um, this is, of course, unconsciously. No one does it on purpose. No one decides to, okay, I'll just go for this person because they're unavailable. But this is a way for them to create a distance so that they don't need to go too close to the other person, and it feels safer this way, actually. When it comes to the disorganized attachment style, they tend to have, again, different reactions, different attitudes towards relationships in different times of their lives and with different partners. They can be overly focused on having a partner. They can measure their self-worth according to whether they have a partner or not. They can feel like I'm going to die if this relationship ends. I cannot live without the other person. But they also have situations where um, they neglect the partner. They think once I'm out of the relationship, everything will be fine, and then they feel lonely. They're also attracted to people who are unavailable, where it's not realistic for something to happen, and they tend to be limerent. So focusing on someone, idealizing, thinking about the other person constantly. Usually, this is someone who is far away, who is unattainable for them. So, again, with the disorganized attachment style, um, they can be very, very different attitude and reactions. So, in order to distinguish whether you have disorganized attachment style or not, you need to have a look in more situations. So don't just look at your last relationship, but have a look at um, your attitude towards relationship the last 10 years, let's say, or before the last 3, 4, 5 relationships. Well, how many you've had, so that you can maybe see the pattern there. So don't just see, oh, that time I was really focusing on this partner, and this means I'm anxious. Have a look at the whole picture there.